Dusan Stojanovic, and the panel, Deborah Barta from Mastercard, Tanidha from Siam Commercial Bank, and Ron Hose from Coins.ph.
All right, let's see if the mic works. It does work. So let's see what we have out there in the audience. I want people to stand up who are from startups. Everybody who's startups, stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everybody startups, stand up. Is that all? We have 15 startups. Who else do we have then in the audience?
16.
6. Okay, 16. 16 startups. Where are you from, sir? You're not a startup?
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you from? From? Malaysia. And what do you do?
We are digitizing cultural heritage objects.
Cultural heritage objects. Also startup. WaterScan. All right. Okay, so we have 16 startups here, 17 startups. Who are from banks, large financial institutions? Please stand up. We want to see you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm still missing the big crowd. Professional service providers, lawyers, accountants, corporate finance, boutiques, anything that has to do with helping startups. Raise your hands. Okay, a little bit more. Investors. Okay, there are some as well. So pretty fragmented. So we need to be able to accommodate at least these 4 groups that we saw out there to actually try to help you with some interesting question about the payments and the future of payments. Debbie, why don't you explain who are you and what do you do?
Hi everybody, my name is Debbie Barta and I lead the innovation channels for Mastercard globally. This is our internal channels as well as external. And by that, internally, essentially we're creating and injecting a culture of innovation inside Mastercard with the concept that innovation can come from anywhere. So we have a series of what I call structured discipline that really works to harness the employee engagement factor and generate some buzz and excitement, while what we're really doing is culling some really interesting quality ideas that we can then inject into our business and to our partners' businesses to create commercial viability. So that's one angle on the internal side. From the external perspective, we also work with a very robust set of startups globally through a program that we've coined Start Path, and I lead that program as well. So it's essentially looking at elite, later stage, Series B-ish size startups that are really looking to make a more of a global splash and leverage Mastercard's capabilities to get there.
And Debbie, that's a global program, but it also exists right here in Southeast Asia and Singapore, right?
Absolutely does. We have a major office here in Singapore, so a lot of good representatives from Mastercard are available and on hand, and we work with a lot of startups in Asia.
And this program that you just mentioned, what was the name again?
Start Path.
Start Path. So for how long has that been going on here?
It's been going on for about 3 years,
yeah.
And it's been growing year on year. We've had so many learnings. Where we started and where we've come, we've had over 5,000 applicants come into the program, and yet we work, again, very selectively, so we've worked with about 70 of them very closely.
Great. Tanidha, please, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Tanidha. I'm from Siam Commercial Bank, Thailand. I'm leading innovation and customer experience at the bank. Originally, I think 3 years ago, we were trying just to build innovation within our Siam Commercial Bank, and actually we successfully did it. Our employees, along with a lot of startups, come to join with us and moving toward fintech. But now we also need to think about customer experience. That's why we just start a new team, the CX team.
What do they do?
We are trying to think beyond just the word innovation or technology. We're trying to put the people, our customer, at the center of design. Like if you're thinking of mobile banking, we're just thinking of all the banking features, all the banking transactions on the mobile banking, but we are never thinking beyond banking. Never have something wow factors or lifestyle features in our apps. This example of what we are trying to do. Think of our customer at the center of design. Purely that.
Very customer-centric.
Yes.
Siam Commercial Bank is known as being in an early stage in terms of technology and fintech in general. Do you guys also do investments?
We set up a new company called Digital Venture just for invest working as a partner with the fintech startup. Yes.
Excellent. Ron, you're the entrepreneur here. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Ron. I'm the founder of Coins.ph. We are a Philippines-based company providing financial services in emerging markets. We work primarily in countries that are where the economy is cash-driven, and we make it very, very easy for consumers to access financial services directly from their phone. So this could be things as simple as sending money to a friend or paying a bill, topping up your phone. We now partner with lending companies to allow our customers to receive loans over the phone, etc.
You're based where?
We're based in Manila.
You're based in Manila. What did you do in life before and how did you end up in Manila?
So prior to moving to Philippines, I was basically had a career as an entrepreneur, as an investor out in the Bay Area. So I was a founder of a video communication company that was acquired by a telco called Telefonica. And then after that, I was an investor at a venture fund called Innovation Endeavors, which has been very active making early stage investments in the Valley. And then I figured out there's kind of a lot of opportunity to use technology to solve baseline problems in emerging markets. So people still lack access to very basic services like healthcare, education, finance, commerce, but almost everyone has a cell phone. If you look at Philippines as a market, actually more people have Facebook accounts than bank accounts. Bank account penetration is still under 30%, and active bank usage probably 10 to 15%.
Great. So, Debbie, one of the things that we have picked up that we hope that the audience is interested in is how are we going to evolve the ecosystem? I hope that is of interest for you. We're guessing a little bit what you want to hear about. But if we see how can we evolve the ecosystem, specifically between large financial institutions that you represent and startups like the one that Ron is representing, how can we evolve that? Where are we and how can we evolve it? And then I'll ask you follow-up questions on that, but on a high level, how can we evolve it?
That's great. So it's a great question, and it's something that we're taking a keen interest in with respect to the Start Path program that I mentioned. But in general, what's happening is a lot of our partners, and this could be banks, large retailers, governments, suppliers, across the gamut, are interested in the innovative and edgy technology that startups can bring, but there's an inherent risk factor involved where the larger corporations are concerned that perhaps by the time they sign a commercial agreement, will the startup still be there? And that's an extreme scenario, but the risk is still there. So what we've done with the program is we've essentially brought these startups in, we've vetted them, we've made sure that we understand all the potential viable opportunities, not only within Mastercard to partner, but also then introducing them to our bank partners to understand the different types of things that they can do faster, more cheaply, more effectively by leveraging the startups. On the flip side of that, the startups have a great opportunity to engage with all of the mentors at Mastercard. So we've developed a fair amount of startup expertise within the corporation. And so we'll have conversations with the startups and we'll talk about the various value propositions. We'll help them refine anything that may be of interest to them with respect to scaling their technology or reaching new customers or, again, reaching our bank customers or partners or merchants. So it's about creating an ecosystem that can function within itself and leverage the capabilities to benefit all parties in the ecosystem.
So we heard words like vetting, mentorship, to name two, that were the kind of key things, or how to evolve it. From your side, Tanidha, how can we and what are you doing to improve even more the ecosystem between the large corporates and financial institutions and the startups?
I believe that now every big companies would like to work with startup. It's the win-win opportunity from both sides. What Siam Commercial Bank did is that, like I said earlier, that we set up the new company, Digital Venture, purely just to invest in the fintech startup. Because as bank, we're trying to do this by our own, but we face a lot of challenge from regulations. So once we separate it as a new company, we are very flexible. not only that we provide you with fun, but we also, like parents, you know, we pamper our child, we provide mentorship, we provide accelerator program, we set up the stage and invite investors from around the world to hear them to pitch and help them for them to be ready enough to pitch, to get the money. It's more like school. We are together with, I believe it's around 10 startups for almost a year, and now they are ready to take off by our own.
So educational kind of startup, helping, presenting,
Workspace.
Right. Can you define the regulatory piece that you were mentioning? What did you talk about in terms of regulation there? Can you go a little bit deeper?
In Thailand, Bank of Thailand regulates every bank, almost every procedures, every step, everything we did, they know. So if we would like to move fast with fintech, with bank, we need to get permission from Bank of Thailand. Every step, a lot of memos, red tape, and we cannot move. That's why once we get this new startup, new digital venture company, regulators, they cannot control us just like when they control bank. So we move together very fast. Within a year, we have 10 ready startups to go into the global stage.
Got it. Ron, maybe from your side, you know, we're talking about regulatory in many countries, you know, actually it's really all happening here, as you might know. You know, the regulatory sandboxes in Singapore, in KL, in Australia, in actually Bangkok, in Jakarta, it's all happening. The Philippines, how does that work from a regulatory aspect? Can you do whatever you want and you just have to inform the regulatory authorities? How does that work?
Right. So, I mean, for fintech, regulatory is very important. It's probably maybe the most important thing that you'll be doing with your business. We're kind of lucky being in, you know, one of the markets that has probably, I go far and say it's like one of the most forward-thinking regulators in the region, if not, you know, actually globally. So even though regulation constrains a lot of what we do, you know, it's a dialogue. We know that the central bank is there actually looking to drive financial inclusion. They're committed to this vision. And they're interested in seeing what startups are doing, right? They want to help, you know, cultivate and create this type of innovation. They understand that the way to do that is obviously by, you know, in some areas relaxing regulation, in some area figuring out how to fit startups into the existing regulatory framework. In our perspective, in kind of our experience, because so Coins, for those who don't know, is completely blockchain based. And when we launched the company 3 years ago, there was actually no regulation whatsoever covering blockchain.
When was that?
Sorry?
When was that? When there was
This was 3 years ago.
3 years ago, okay.
No regulation at all covering blockchain. In fact, most regulators didn't actually know what blockchain was, right? So it took probably a year or 2 years of conversations with regulators to explain what we do, for them to kind of accept. And actually, just in February, the first set of regulation was put up. But what we did in the meantime is we knew, you know, our philosophy has always been, okay, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, talks like a duck, you know, it's a duck, right? So we went out and actually proactively sought licenses as a remittance provider. And we started incorporating the practices that were required from us to do as a remittance provider. And then we let the regulation catch up. I think in other areas, we're seeing, like in Thailand, the Bank of Thailand is opening up a sandbox, which is a great way to deal with companies like ours who don't yet have a clear regulatory framework, or at least, you know, 2 years ago when it wasn't so clear.
So I think what we jumped into, we started a question by, you know, how can involve startups working with corporates, and immediately went into the regulatory piece, which is clearly a very important piece. But just going back to the initial question, Ron, you know, how do you view being a startup? What else can be done to actually evolve the ecosystem? You mentioned the regulatory piece, but what about the large financial institutions? You have many banks as partners and customers. How can it evolve even more?
Right. So, I mean, if you're a bank, or a large FI, I mean, your business over the past like 20, 30 years, like largely relied on regulation. In the next 20 to 30 years, is gonna largely rely on technology, right? And I think everybody kind of understands that, but the transformation, you know, the kind of the pivoting, moving the ship into the new direction takes time, right? And actually fintech and startups are actually the way to help your ship maneuver quickly, right? Most big financial organizations are not tech organizations by DNA. There's a few that are moving fast with that transformation, faster than transformation than others, but I mean, it's not like a Facebook or a Google that, you know, grew from a product engineering culture. And it's good in some respects because you need to have that, you know, you need to have that DNA that, you know, that thinks about trust and regulation, but to move forward, you need the tech and, you know, you need the tech and product DNA as well. So I think, you know, the initiatives of having incubators like we see in Thailand and, you know, in here we see with DBS and OCBC and a bunch of the major banks, engaging startups to help drive new product through the FI is very good. And I guess the key, you know, the other key aspect we discussed this before is really around time, because when the key challenge for a startup has to actually show and demonstrate something, you know, usually in a span of like 6 to 12 months, right, to be able to actually survive. Key issue for a bank usually takes, you know, 12 to 24 months to get comfortable and actually start executing. So if you build mechanisms to bridge that, you can actually do a lot of interesting things.
Great. Thanks for that. Now let's be super concrete. And all the 16 startups that were in the room, hopefully it's going to be useful for you. So from you, Debbie or Tanidha, whoever wants to start, what are the kind of 3 concrete examples that a startup needs to think about when engaging with you? Yeah. And not only maybe about the Mastercard program, but in general, 3 concrete examples, and also from you, Tanidha, maybe not only in the new part where you're doing customer interfacing, but in general, when engaging with Siam Commercial Bank. What do they need to think about?
Yeah. So I'll start if that's all right. So Mastercard overall, and this is very similar to what Tanidha was mentioning, is we're focused on fabulous customer experiences. And customer experiences can be customers, meaning our partner banks, could be their end users. Across the board, it's generation free, it's a human thing. We're looking for a better, faster, easier experience. So specifically in labs, when we're working with startups, we're looking for a couple of key things out of our relationships. Notably, the fabulous user experience that's genuinely solving a client pain point of some sort. That the pain point is something that's shared and also then scalable, meaning it can solve a wide variety of pain point needs from the various customers.
But may I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
How do these 16 startups actually know exactly what the pinpoints are?
Well,
are you communicating those?
The same way that we know is that we do a lot of focus groups. We're out there talking to the customers and the end users.
But would you be willing to go one step ahead and actually share some of the pinpoints that you actually hear?
Oh, absolutely. My goodness, we could be here all day.
Yeah.
So in the payments industry in particular, we have sort of a common phrase within our organization that commerce is going to change more rapidly in the next 5 years than it has in the past 50. So it's a massive opportunity, the way that technology is driving so many different changes and advancements, notably the convergence of all of these devices. So there's 10 billion devices today, and they're projecting it to explode to 50 billion devices by 2020. So the pain points that we're seeing is, there are not just the existing, I hate to use the word legacy on myself, but legacy users, in addition to the millennial folk that are looking for something easy that can be across any device, whether it's in your car, a wearable, an appliance. Any of these devices will become a connected commerce related device. So the pain points we see are all around removing the friction around the payment itself, which really is the least interesting part of those experiences and something that people don't generally get excited about making the actual payment, but rather hopping in a cab and the payment's taken care of on the back end, or getting on the train and you've already got your ticket loaded through your mobile app. It's the payment, removing the friction around the payments and then making those experiences seamless.
Okay, so that is a pinpoint, you know, making the payment frictionless cross-device. That is a pinpoint, one of them, right? That, as you know, a startup should be very clear that you have and that they will solve. So that's the top thing. What are the other two things the 16 startups need to think when engaging with you?
Yeah, so it's the feasibility of the technology itself. So a lot of the startups we evaluate and we're working with have a great technology concept and perhaps a robust proof of concept with one particular partner. But what we're looking for is the ability to scale. And we can certainly help with that as well with the assets that we have. So it's the ability for the technology. Is it feasible in that it can scale?
Okay.
And then the last thing is a market lens perspective, is really to say, do you have the right team in place to take this to market and scale it across markets as well? Because we're looking for the niche capabilities that can be applicable to solve the pain point, but also looking to really make this a nice scalable platform.
Okay, so solving a real problem, you mentioned frictionless payments as one. Number two, scalability, and number three, execution. And then the 16 can talk to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Tanidha, what about you?
Actually, pretty much the same.
And try not to say it's exactly the same. Give me another problem that you guys are looking for that is really a friction point. So here was frictionless payments, you know, that's across the industry. But what would be another pinpoint that you really feel this I'm looking for to be solved?
Pain point for the bank or pain point for the startups.
For the startup, yeah. So if they say, you know, we know how to solve this problem, what are the problems that you want to get solved?
Let's put it this way, it's do and don't.
Yeah.
How about that? So when we work with the startup, there are two models that Siam Commercial Bank work with the startup. The first model is through digital venture. For digital venture, as I said earlier, it's like parents working with baby. So all we need is the ideas. So have great ideas. Great ideas means be specific. Don't overwhelm with a lot of things, a lot of features, and we don't know who is your target. We don't know what is your core idea or core product. So be specific, be concrete, be clear with, and crystallize your idea. That's all we need for digital venture. And on the other hand, for bank, we are now more open to work with startup, not just only, I don't want to name, but IBM or Accenture or Big Four, but we are open more opportunity to work with startups like consulting firms or to the technology. For this group, what you need to do is to be able to show your team. The capability of your team must be something, like you must have something that, bank, we have a lot of money, why do we need you? You know? So you need to show something, even passion, just a little higher passion that bank has. That's what we want to engage with you. So don't come with just product, but show your team, show the passion of your team, show your capabilities, and tell us why we don't need to, as bank, why don't bank doesn't need to hire or set up another team, but why do we need to engage with you? A lot of startups that come to trying to pitch the project with us fail to do this. They just sell the product and they sell that they can do this and that and those. But when we talk about team, especially supporting team, when we scale the product, because we are a national bank, we cannot just sell within Bangkok or service within Bangkok City. But when we scale to other provinces across the nation, will you be able to have the team to support us?
So we hear a little bit the same thing, and that's obvious because, you know, most corporates are looking for the same thing. So I think you said be very specific, the technology piece and the team. One thing that you mentioned to me just before we met is that you are also very concerned and want to understand how do we take better care of the digital natives? Can you evolve that a little bit better? Who are the digital natives, and you know what you're looking for there? How do young people in Thailand or digital natives in Thailand interact in terms of social media?
They are more now on the social media. So one thing is that as a startup or even bank, even for myself, we need to understand that consumers are changing. Well, I'm not sure whether you know Line in Thailand is very popular. It's more like WeChat or Facebook. Line can put themselves in everyday life of everybody in Thailand. I have to say almost everybody, even my 70 years old dad used Line. So when we try to do to make our product, to make the bank service better, is we need to put the lifestyle into the banking product. That's our pain point. And I think a lot of fintech or a lot of companies in Thailand are trying to pitch with us, doesn't mention this. They're trying to sell just technology.
So going further on that piece on the digital natives and actually solving problems for them, can you describe from a startup point of view, Ron, who are from your point of view the digital natives? What do they look like? Who are they? What do they do? How do you serve them?
We look at everybody as digital natives. I don't think there's a distinction because, there is a distinction, of course. There are a lot of customers who have, come into the world where the internet is already there, mobile is already there, all these expectations are already set. But, we think everybody deserves kind of the same service. A lot of these things are come around, I think, convenience, right? The customers expect, like before you'd set up an account, it would take you a few weeks, forms, approvals, etc. But if you download an app and you're signing up for Instagram, you get Instagram right away, right? If you're downloading, Spotify and you put your credit card in, you can start using Spotify right away, right? So if I'm downloading an app to access financial services and get a loan, why should I be waiting, right? Why should I go to the bank if I can access it directly from my phone? So it is really about streamlining and convenience. And I think that the thing is the expectation has been set from other industries and it's transferring into the financial services industry to be able to serve customers at that same level of service and granularity.
So how did they find you? How do digital natives find you and your service?
So for our customers specifically, we do some marketing, a lot of social. We're very active on Facebook, both as an advertiser, but also in kind of creating conversation and engagement with our customers. But it's really not the marketing that drives your growth, it's the product, right? And our product is part the product itself and part is the service, right? Like when our customers write to us on Facebook, we answer. When they tweet at us, we reply. We have in-app live chat, like all those things that you would actually expect from a social media product, maybe not so much from a bank, but we know that that's how customers like to communicate. And I think the net result of that, the net result of how we think of our relationship with our customers, reflecting that our customers are happy with our service and they end up recommending and bringing other customers. So the majority of our growth and the majority of customers actually find us by word of mouth. They are, either their friends or somebody has posted on social media and shared about an experience they've had with us, about how, maybe instead of having to travel, for 30 minutes to a payment center to pay their power bills, they were able to pay it instantly, through our app, and somebody else will try it and experiment and then stay with us.
Great. So kind of going back. And we had the questions to Debbie and Tanidha in terms of the top 3 things that a startup needs to think when they pitch. What are the top 3 things you think about when you go to a bank or a financial institution? How are you prepared to actually win them over? What's your secret sauce?
Right. So, by the way, again, like I mentioned this before, but Philippines is extremely cash-based, right? So, if you want to provide any type of financial service, you need to have a bridge over to cash. So, the first thing we did as a company, we started establishing relationships with existing retail chains, with banks, FIs, remittance companies, to facilitate withdrawals and deposits from our wallets. And that took quite a bit of legwork. I mean, the first thing is expectations, right?
Sorry, what is the first thing?
The first thing is expectations.
Expectations.
Right? I mean, you have to kind of count on these things taking, 6, 12 months to come to fruition. If you're thinking that you can come in and close this quickly, it won't happen. And if you start to push too hard, things will actually fall apart because things have to move at the pace of the partner. We usually try to limit and really focus on what we want to achieve. So even though we know that there is a lot of different opportunities for collaboration with a particular partner, we try to find the one thing that we want to do first, and we usually try to find something that is really, really, really easy to do. Not for us, for the partner. Something we know that there are very low likelihood of them running into snags. So these are things that are one, obviously on a high priority list for the partner to accomplish. It's like aligned with their objectives and particularly with the stakeholder that we speak with. These are things that hopefully have less regulatory risk for the partner, hopefully have less technical requirements for them to integrate. So we usually put all the burden on ourselves. Like if there's an integration needed, we try to structure in a way that doesn't require the partner to do any technical work if possible, or do minimal technical work, or find a way that it fits into their existing systems. Really, you're the startup. All the obligations are on you. That's the game.
Can I add on to that?
Please.
So one of the things that Ron and I were chatting about before the session was all of our discussion to date has really been on the future, leveraging technologies to change the future, enhance the future, that sort of thing. For larger problems, I'll say more in emerged markets. But the emerging markets is another way that we can leverage technology to really financially include a lot of people. That there's, one of the questions earlier was around what are we looking for in startups and pain points. Some of the pain points are that there's a massive underserved set of markets out there where there's a lot of consumers who simply aren't even financially included. So we have a goal within Mastercard to include 500 million consumers by 2020. We're already at 310 million just since we announced not too long ago. So the goal is to really say, how do we grab those that are perhaps in more remote areas, et cetera, and help them get into the ecosystem. So one of the examples from a concrete perspective is a product that we launched in Kenya called Tukuze, which essentially gives the smallholder farmers in agriculture access to information in markets through their feature phones. So it's not the latest and greatest technology, but it's applying technology in a means that's accessible to the masses. So it gives them the ability to now find more competitive pricing for their crops, gain a larger share of that market, but it's also giving them a digital statement of all of their revenues from the agriculture commerce. And that banks can now evaluate them to give them loans or other financially related services. So there's a whole end of the spectrum, which I think Ron is focused on as well. You might want to comment with respect to, it's not just an affluent problem, or there's problems all through the ecosystem with related to payments specifically, where we can apply technology, and Labs is focused on that. We've got an entire labs that we opened, and we call it the Center for Financial Inclusion, down in Kenya, specifically in partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where we're focused just on financial inclusion.
That is a great example, Debbie, but did you actually do that with a startup, or was it Mastercard doing it on its own?
So that one was in particular with a couple of nonprofits that we worked together with, so it wasn't startup capability.
Okay, so that's fine. So you did an example with nonprofits, and we love the example. But we are hearing from Ron that, he's setting the expectations right the first thing in the meeting. Number two, he is very kind of trying to do a simple thing, and he's very flexible. I want some concrete stuff that you've done with a startup now.
Oh, sure. So then I'll shift gears to more of the, we were talking about digital natives. So over half of digital mobile payment users are actually millennials, and these digital natives are looking for smoother payments experiences, et cetera, et cetera. I often think to myself, again, I don't think that's limited to just millennials. I think everyone's looking for a better experience. So we work with a lot of startups with respect to what we call conversational commerce. We're also looking at visual commerce. So conversational commerce can come in the form of chatbots, for example. We've recently launched a number of them with Fresh Direct and Subway and Cheesecake Factory.
And that you did with startups.
And we leverage a lot of the AI-related startups to help us converse and make connection points better for business so we can help people's lives, businesses grow, cities improve, et cetera. So there's a company called Casisto that we've worked with that's created Kai, a platform that engages with banks in particular. And that helps interface with consumers where the mobile payment touchscreen, how that sort of revolutionized the world. We are looking at chatbots and conversational commerce in a similar way.
And sorry for interrupting you, but why was that successful? Why did you manage to be successful with that startup?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's the natural language recognition. It makes the channels where people are already existing more seamless. So what they're in today, so for example, we're also leveraging Facebook's Messenger platform. Where the people are going today is where we're looking to innovate and bring those new technologies to them versus creating another one-off product somewhere else where they have to go somewhere else to access it. So we're just making it simple. You know, Pizza Hut, for example, is doing a pilot with us with the Pepper robot. So Pepper is a robot from SoftBank Robotics, and essentially it's going to help improve the customer experience. When someone comes in, they can talk to the robot, make their orders. It improves the customer experience, but yet frees up some of the workers to be focused on other things. So customer satisfaction, making a great pizza, et cetera. So it's really putting these aspects of technology in a place that can help improve where people are already looking to transact.
So it's, okay, conversational chat boxes linked a little bit with Line that we talked a little bit with you, Tanidha, before. You had a concrete example, I think. Was it with Grab Taxi, where you've done something?
Oh, yes. In Thailand, we are not, if you say that everyone is digital native, right? It's not in my country, actually. My country is more like cash-based. Everyone uses cash or credit card, per se. Even the government has a big initiative to have the project is called Prompt Pay project. It's already launched nationwide. Every bank will be treated as one bank. So, and we use our phone number instead of the account number. So it's a very great initiative, great concept, but no use case. No one actually adopted. It might be because it's a government project. We are now scared of our government looking into our money or those concerns. However, what we are trying to do now, we need to move our cash-based society to digital native societies. Everybody use Line. Everybody, I think 100% of my friends who drink Starbucks put their money in their Starbucks wallet, but not putting their money in Siam commercial bank wallet. Crazy, huh? So we're trying to understand that what is the real desire of customers. That's why we're trying to make lifestyle blend into the digital apps. Coming back to the taxi drivers, it's the first use case that we're trying to launch the real taxi drivers, like partner with Grab Taxi in Thailand, to have all the taxi driver adopted this Prompt Pay project. Means in that if you go into Bangkok City and you find the logo of Prompt Pay with SCB, that taxi, you don't need cash. You can just ask for their phone number and you transfer with any mobile bank applications from any banks in Thailand. Just transfer to their phone number, and that's it. No cash involved.
Great.
It's the first stage that we're trying to move our society forward to digital.
And how long did it take from first meeting to actually implementation, roughly?
Real number, 2 months.
Great, that's what we want to hear. Ron, we have 1 minute on each of you. What does the future look like of payments? You know, where are we going in a decade? 1 minute on each, and then, please.
Right. I mean, I think payments and financial services are going the same way that the telco industry went, right? So a lot of disintermediation, things are going to move basically, the infrastructure is going to become commoditized, and we're going to see applications for for specific services. So two things will happen with that. Obviously, better experience to end consumers, more choice. And the second one is much, much deeper reach, right? The same way that services like Skype or WhatsApp or WeChat are able to reach almost every consumer. Even in emerging markets, we're going to see financial applications for lending and borrowing money, for making payments, for investment, for a variety of different aspects, reaching very, very deep into markets that we couldn't reach before. So if we're looking at Southeast Asia, 620 million people, I'll give a prediction that within a decade we're going to see a majority of that population now actually having direct access to financial services. I'd say even a vast majority.
Tanidha, where are we in a decade?
Yesterday, my 10-year-old nephew can use mobile banking to transfer to my grandma. So in 10 years from now, he will be 20. So I think mobile banking or online banking will be just infrastructure. If we are outside there, I saw a lot of AI. So maybe combining together, I even imagine that every household will have the refrigerator or the air conditioner that can pay my electricity bills for me directly, or order milk for me directly. So I think that's the future. It's not just payment, mobile or channel, but everything blended into everyday lives of everybody, which I wish the cost would be lower. The cost of refrigerator or the AI, yes.
Thanks. Debbie, where are we?
In 10 years, the conversational commerce aspect will be a mainstay. You'll be talking to your car, you'll be talking to your fridge, et cetera. So the connected device world will be a normal thing. Virtual reality with really the pointed focus on augmented reality, I think will be very interesting from the perspective of contextual and personalized offers throughout your normal life. And then visual, sort of visual commerce and looking at cross-border, for example, image recognition with respect to solving language barriers to use pictures and imagery will also be something I think is going to be very interesting in the future.
Thank you very much. So, on behalf of the audience and myself, a big applause to Ron, Tanidha, and Debbie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's something we could keep discussing for hours, I'm sure.